Welcome to the Gridiron Fantasy Football. It's the Gridiron.
Welcome to the Gridiron.
The Gridiron.
Just gonna do a quick segment talking about the NFL trade deadline.
Yeah, quick breaking news here.
Some breaking news, and in turn, it kind of seemed like it was our fantasy football trade deadline almost, with the craziness that happened.
Yeah, a bunch of trades. So Trade City here. We're gonna go to town on what happened.
Yeah.
Want to kick it off?
NFL or our league first?
Let's go with the NFL.
Big one to start off the day was T.J. Hawkinson goes to the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. And what do you think the implications are of that?
I don't know. Lions were peppering him. So, Gramps, I don't know if that's good or bad for Hawkinson. I would assume it's probably going to hurt him a little bit. I don't see it helping him a ton. Maybe he can, get into the end zone a little more because their offense is better. But Justin Jefferson's there. Dalvin Cook's there. The Lions' offense was just himself, Amon-Ra, not really an end zone guy, and Swift. So,
yeah. I kind of see it as a wash, fantasy-wise. It makes me think, yeah, he'll have maybe a better offense, but he's going to get less target share volume, percentage overall.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And they probably balance out, but I think it's unlikely, his 37-point game earlier in the season, I think it's less likely he explodes like that.
Yeah.
So overall, I see it a tiny bit hurting his value.
Yeah.
The impact I do see, though, is I see it really helping the Vikings offense overall. Especially Kirk Cousins. I think it's a big plus for Kirk Cousins to have a third weapon.
As Travis said.
Kirk
Cousins going up.
And then, not everyone agrees with these takes, but I think the better your offense is, the better the players perform, and so I don't think it hurts Justin Jefferson. I think it actually helps Jefferson, maybe just a tiny bit, and Thielen. Just the better your team is, the better your individual players do.
Sure.
So, sucks for the
Okay.
Lions in real life.
Yeah, they're tanking.
They're tanking hard.
Okay, another big one. Let me think. Claypool to the Bears.
Yeah, pretty big.
I don't know who has Claypool right now.
Gramps.
And
he is Justin Fields.
Gramps, two of your players got traded today.
Yeah.
Nothing but beneficial for Claypool and Fields, I would assume.
Definitely helps Fields. And Claypool wasn't doing anything on the Steelers, and so might as well. Why not? He's talented.
He's going to be the best receiver in that offense.
We thought it was Darnell Mooney, but Mooney it just seems too small and shrimpy and not enough spunk, So I would say that's good for you, Gramps, on the Fields and the Claypool side.
Yeah.
In real life, I think they gave up a lot for him. A second round. I don't think he's that good, but whatever. Nyheim Hines.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, but Zach Moss actually flipped back over.
Zach Moss comes back over. So Nyheim Hines is now a Buffalo Bill. Definitely helps Nyheim Hines. AJ, you probably have a decent flex guy in him now. That's just my opinion. Obviously, could be totally wrong, but I think they went after a running back because they want a pass catching back to be in there with Josh Allen when he's rolling around all the time,
Totally.
Singletary's not the guy.
Singletary's a good first, second down. He's fine, but it seems like they have the Giovanni Bernard, James White type role in mind for Nyheim Hines.
And with that is a sweet offense, he should get a lot of looks.
Yeah, he'll be valuable. So AJ, I would flex him. I think he's worth a flex.
Yeah.
What else?
Jeff Wilson Jr. goes to the Dolphins.
That he does.
He had no value anymore with McCaffrey swooping all of that.
That and Chase Edmonds goes to the Broncos as part of the Chubb deal.
Yes.
So for Jeff Wilson, I'd say he's immediately, instead of the number 3, jumps up the ladder to number 2.
2 or
potentially
1A, 1B with Mostert.
Yeah. So I wouldn't play him. I wouldn't play him this week.
We know the Dolphins coach was the former Niners OC, and now he's got Mostert and Jeff Wilson.
That he does.
Last year they played both of them. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. Good thing for Wilson.
Good thing for Wilson. Pops it. Gives him a little bit of life. He looked like he was dead in the water.
And what about Chase Edmonds going to the Bronx?
Murky backfield.
Annoying, because I just traded for Latavius Murray.
I think
moments before that happened.
Murray is probably still the guy there, because him and Edmonds are different
Oh, totally different.
He kind of
Murkiest backfield in the NFL, though.
Yeah, it's murky.
Murky as heck. Kind of renders all those guys unstartable, honestly. Unless you, like, flex
Well,
week.
this week when we don't know what's going to happen.
They're on bye this week. And so next week when we don't know what happens.
Week after.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, is that all? I guess Calvin Ridley gets traded. That's next year.
Irrelevant to us.
Irrelevant, although big time trade.
I think that's all like the big offensive players for the NFL.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our fantasy league. So,
Yeah.
3 big trades happened today. The first one of the day was myself and Eli. I traded Rashad White and Latavius Murray for the New England defense and Mike Gesicki.
Yeah. Value-wise, I think I got the short end of the stick, but I was never going to play either of those guys ever again. I have, Kelsey and Eagles. I've been trying to shop the Patriots D for weeks. No takers. I'd wake up to a trade from you, and I'm like, yep, I'll take it. I'll take whatever, because I didn't want them to ride the bench, but I wanted to control who, when, and where they went to, I didn't want Annie to pick them up. I didn't want Sam to pick them up. Guys, I'm in contention with these top spots for.
Well, it sounds like they were just kind of roster clogs on your team, like maybe a little bit of trade value, but
precisely.
You got something out of them.
They added nothing for me but trade value, and I risked by dropping them a team that I don't want to get them could have picked them up.
Totally.
Kind of annoying that Latavius got more murky with Chase Edmonds, but for me, Rashad White was the real value there. I've been trying to get White back. For you, great strategy. You aren't really going to play those guys. You need wins now, and because of bye weeks, you need a tight end. Gesicki's a great fill-in. He worked for me last week, and then Patriots D. They've been the number 2 D. They've only scored less than 10 points once. They've been fantastic, and they play the Colts and Sam Smellinger.
Yeah.
So I think a great pickup for you.
Yeah, I did it because I needed those like special teams units filled in this week, and I didn't want to have to drop. We'll get into that in just a second, but I didn't want to have to like drop any of my bye week players to like fill in those roles that I needed this week. So trading was the answer, and it worked out.
And you got good players. Next up, the trade was Terry McLaurin from Luke's team for Geno Smith from Aiden's team.
Geno and Terry are now both on their 3rd teams based on trades, right? Did you trade for Geno?
I did not.
How did Geno... You picked up Geno, you dropped him, Aiden picked him up. Okay.
I picked up Geno. I played him 2 weeks. He scored 20-plus points both week. I am a doubter, and I deserve a slap in the face for dropping him.
Whatever. It is funny now that Terry is on his 3rd team all from trades. He's one of the most traded players.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised that Luke traded him because he seems to have turned it up with Taylor Heineke.
He didn't look bad, and I don't know how much of an upgrade Geno is. Or how much does that needle move with Geno in over like Stafford or Goff, who Luke currently has?
Yeah, I would have kept rolling with either Stafford or Goff.
Yeah.
So
questionable trade.
Majorly
Luke,
questionable.
But who am I to judge your roster construction? Luke
also has Curtis Samuel, and so I think he was like didn't want both those guys. I think you made the wrong call, Luke. But this is why we should get rid of the veto next year.
One thing before we move on to the last trade of the day.
One thing.
Is that a couple of weeks ago, Eli and I were talking major crap on a Leonard Fournette for Etienne and Tyler Boyd trade. The entire league was.
Yep.
And as of this week, it looks like
Etienne's more valuable than
Fournette. Major win for Jason.
Yeah.
So, when we say bad trade for Luke, we have no clue what we're talking about.
Yes.
And anything can happen.
And this is why no trade should ever get vetoed. That's not collusion. We should get rid of the trade veto option. Should be by league manager only. Sam, while he may be corrupt, he's not a full-on tyrant, so he will adjudicate with reason.
Yeah, and if we can, if someone posts it or, text about it in our group chat, hey, I think this is collusion, that should be the discussion there.
And there's not collusion in our league, so.
There never has been, except for your weekly trades years ago. But we're well past that.
Yeah.
Okay, final trade of the day, probably the biggest one. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Most players involved. I trade away Michael Thomas, Brian Robinson, and
tight end
Greg Dulcich, the newly crowned Broncos starting tight end who looks great
Yep.
for Mike Williams and Evan McPherson.
Yep. So again, you're filling a bye week need with that kicker. Didn't want to drop guys, so instead you do some trading. You gave up a lot. Like, Michael Thomas is kind of a super talented number one guy if he's healthy and playing.
He's a quantity.
But he's not. And so you dice rolled, basically, I would say here. You guys both just, I think, see these players differently, and you're rolling the dice differently. Aiden really needs a running back, and so kind of shelling out the future with Mike Williams for Brian Robinson for now. If they're both healthy, I think Mike Williams, obviously, higher value. But he gets Michael Thomas. I think a good trade for both of you. You're consolidating, and he's filling a need. These are the kind of trades I love to see. Make sense from both ends.
Yeah. I really needed a kicker. I didn't want to have to drop Dulcich for like a waiver wire kicker. So I was looking around. I offered something to Annie, Dulcich straight up for Tucker, but Aiden accepted my trade first.
Annie probably wouldn't have done that because she likes Tucker.
Yeah. But I just didn't want to drop a player for a waiver kicker. So I was like shopping for like a decent kicker and adding in some more value to get it over the line with Aiden. So
absolutely.
Yeah, those are the trades. I love trading. It seems like Aiden does too. Super awesome.
And Luke.
And Luke. And you.
And me. We've been rocking the trades this year. So, well, exciting day in
Fun day.
The NFL and in the gridiron.
Yes.
This has been the breaking trading news.
Beep, 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 beep.
And we're going to kick it over to Uncle Sam.
Dr. Sam?
Dr. Sam for a little Guru Grady every single day injury update.
Yep. All right, Sam, take it away.
Take it away.
Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the, no. Here comes the, oh. Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the, no. Here comes the, oh. Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. E-double-L. I said so, I keep big bills up in my hood on the dirt.
All right, hello everybody. Fruitaloo, I am your injury update guru, Sam Grady. Let's get right into it. Week 8 injuries. Luckily, we do not have a whole lot to report on here. The big one being Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp left late in this game on Sunday. Appeared to have a sprained ankle. Initial reports say that he's avoided any serious injury. However, you're going to want to monitor his practice reports this week. He is listed as day-to-day. Will probably be a game-time decision going into Sunday. However, if Cooper Kupp plays, there's no way you're holding him out of your lineup, him being probably the number one wide receiver in fantasy. The other big injury from Week 8 is Devontae Parker. He left with a sprained knee. We're looking at about a 2 to 4 week recovery for Devontae Parker. We have a series of people who were injured, left the game, but then returned back to the game. That includes Mark Ingram, Ramondre Stevenson, Adam Thielen, Justin Fields, Tyler Higbee, Irv Smith, and Jonathan Taylor. All left, eventually returning to the game. Again, check practice reports this week to see any updates on those players. Let's get into updates here. Weeks are starting here with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. He is our only quarterback update for the week. Last week he was out with both a pretty serious illness and also dealing with an ankle sprain. He looks like he is recovered and will be back to practice this week and should be good to go for Sunday. Jumping over to the running back position, Gus Edwards left this game on Sunday with a hamstring. He's listed as day-to-day, although it seems to be like he will trend to miss this Sunday, especially with the Ravens having a bye week next week. It'll buy him an extra week of rest. Kenyon Drake looks like he could be a good spot start for this weekend. Chuba Hubbard dealing with an ankle, looking like he could return week 9. However, if he does return, he'll probably have likely limited work behind Deontay Foreman, who looked pretty steadily out there this week. DeAndre Swift dealing with an ankle and shoulder injury. The big question here with DeAndre Swift is, are they easing him in? What surprised me is he actually outsnapped Williams this week, although if you looked at the box score, you would not have thought that. Dan Campbell, head coach, said that they gave him one too many carries this week. He only had 5 carries. So apparently the right amount of carries was 4. Keep an eye on DeAndre Swift. Hopefully he's trending and we'll get back to more his usual workload. Jonathan Taylor also tweaked his ankle again this week. He did return back to play. The Colts did trade away Nyheim Hines, which could be an indicator that his health is okay. Again, we'll want to monitor Jonathan Taylor going forward. James Conner, rib injury. He is still listed day-to-day. Last week he did log in limited practice both Wednesday and Thursday last week, was ultimately ruled out for this game on Sunday, but we're looking like he should trend back towards starting this week. We're going to jump over to the wide receiver position, which probably has some of the more important guys you want to know about, starting with Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase was a surprise add to the injury report last week. He's dealing with 2 injuries, the first one being a fractured hip. Fractured hip is usually not too serious. We are looking at about a week 12 return if that was his only injury. He also suffered a labrum tear. These labrum tears can vary depending on the individual. Sometimes they do need surgery. Usually the player can play through it, which I believe is the plan for Jamar Chase. To play through to the end of the season and then receive off-season surgery for that labrum tear. He's not expected at this point to go onto the IR, although he still could. So pay attention to that. Again, we're targeting week 12 for his return. Deebo Samuel also was a no-go this Sunday, listed with a hamstring injury. 49ers are on a bye week this week, so he will have a full week off with the bye for recovery. Mike Williams, ankle. He's expected to miss at least a minimum of 4 weeks. So we should be looking for some spot starts here out of some of the Chargers wide receivers for Justin Herbert to throw to. Speaking of the Chargers wide receivers, we have Keenan Allen. He's been out with a hamstring injury. He did not practice on Monday coming off of their bye week, which is a little surprising. It could set up Josh Palmer as a good spot start this week. Again, we want to monitor Keenan Allen's practice reports. If he's practicing in full, especially on Thursday, that will be a good indicator for him getting back onto the field this weekend. Rashad Bateman for the Ravens, foot injury. It looks like this foot injury is more serious than they previously thought. He is going to miss a few weeks. That is all we have for now. Allen Lazard, dealing with a shoulder injury. He remains questionable. My guess is that they are going to rush him back sooner than later because of the high need for Green Bay and their wide receivers. They did not make a splash this trade deadline. I was kind of expecting Green Bay to bring in at least somebody for Aaron Rodgers to throw to. They did not, which indicates that Allen Lazard is probably going to be trending in the right direction. Lastly, let's move on to our tight ends. 2 tight ends really to talk about here. The big one being Mark Andrews. We knew Mark Andrews was dealing with a knee injury previously, which is what held him out or limited his production last week. This week in the game, he suffered both an ankle and a shoulder injury. Neither of those injuries is listed to be serious. However, the Ravens don't play until Monday night against the Saints. I would expect Mark Andrews to be listed as a game time decision. So if you are waiting till Monday night to make a tight end start, you might want to plan ahead just in case he is ruled out this week, especially with the Ravens on their bye week next week. In all likelihood, they could easily sit him, buy him that extra week of rest. Isaiah Likely is out there on the waivers. I imagine some team will pick him up this week. Could be a good spot start there. Tyler Conklin is also on the waivers, who had a big week last week. I'm assuming that he will be picked up by somebody again this week too. Lastly is Darren Waller. Darren Waller has been dealing with a hamstring. He is still considered week to week, although he is trending this week to play versus the Jags. One last reminder for you all, the IR, when a NFL team puts a player on the IR, it means that they are going to miss a minimum of 4 games, not 4 weeks. So someone like J.K. Dobbins is expected to be back after 4 games. Will have another week out because of his week 10 bye week. So he'll miss 5 weeks, 4 games is what we are predicting at this point. He should be back week 12 against Jacksonville. That's all I got for you today on the injury report. Thanks for joining. Back to you, Gridiron.
What? Welcome back. Welcome back to the Gridiron.
Thanks, Sam, for your injury update.
Yeah, great injury update. Make sure you take that into account tonight while you're setting your waivers. Injuries and bye weeks are decimating teams at the moment.
Yeah, we'll see that in just 1 second. But quickly, let's look at last week. Just from the top, Eli beats Aiden. I think we all expected that. Kind of a crushing in the end, but Aiden wasn't too terrible. But considering
No, just a quick note. Highest scoring week of the season last year. The 7th highest scorer, like number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, was Joe with 131.
insane.
So if you wanted a chance to win, you kind of needed to score big.
Yeah.
So sometimes 906 will get it done for you, Aiden. Not against me. Not this week.
Not this week.
Foreman's the big note here.
Great waiver pickup last week.
Great
Or
pickup.
2 weeks ago now.
Yeah. That's just awesome. Free RB1 off the waivers. Probably won't score more than like 15 moving forward, but
Yeah.
And then Dak is back. That's great. Tua looking awesome and Cooper looking awesome and Pitts looking awesome. So Aiden, team's got some players.
Yeah. Should thank your brother for trading you those 2 guys.
You should, and you can see how it hurt him this week. Oh,
Rough.
AJ, congratulations.
He
little bit
wins
of-
the first annual kid matchup.
That he does. Big bragging rights here. And actually, I know that they were down in Denver for Halloween, so they were together while this happened. Sucks to be Tate and good to be AJ this week, although they're in different places standings-wise, and so
Sure.
Tate can fall back on that. A big Henry game and a big Kyler game. Also, props to AJ for starting Hawks D.
Amazing.
Just great job. And then we said this from the beginning, Tate likely won't win when Josh Allen and Devontae Adams don't show up big time.
Adams with a under 1 point game.
Yeah, and Allen 17 points isn't going to cut it. So not your week, Tate. Not your week.
No. This, as we predicted, was going to be either the closest or the most fun matchup to monitor, and it was.
Yep. Highest scoring total matchup of combined points.
Came down to Chubb at the end. He needed 32. He got 27.
And even worse, the Browns were like sitting edge of the red zone and just kneeled it down.
Yeah,
Sucks.
and they gave Dearness Johnson those like last drive carries.
Yeah.
So close for Caleb, but Sam, he really deserved it. Pollard went crazy.
Kind of similar to Foreman pulling a 3-touchdown game out of the bag. Pollard pulls a 3-touchdown game out of the bag.
And so does A.J. Brown.
And
too.
so does A.J. Brown. Just 2 good teams going at it. Pollard scoring that final touchdown was all Sam needed to win.
Yes.
So
yeah.
congrats to Sam. Moves up to 5-3 and knocks Kayla out of first place.
Yep.
Puts Annie up in first place with her win down here.
Yes. Annie,
Congrats to Annie. And as Annie said in the chat, the ladies, the women of the league, at the top spots. Maybe they know something we don't.
perhaps.
Perhaps. Perhaps women are superior to men.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
We expected Annie to crush Luke. It was closer than we thought, I guess. Luke was admirable. Helped out by his trade last week.
Yeah, you'll notice here, Cup only got me 17-ish points or so this week. Was it 18.6? I don't know. But Ayuk and McLaurin, I kind of would, not like I trade Cup back, but just shows the value is there for Luke, and then he goes and trades McLaurin away.
But yeah, Luke, pretty decent, but not enough this week.
Can't stop Tyreek.
Nope.
Nice job, Annie. Bad job, Luke.
Okay.
This one, ooh, always feels good to beat your dad.
Yes, it does. It feels great to have the highest score of the week. First time for me this year. Really the first time my team has put up big numbers this year, so it feels amazing.
We predicted this, though. We looked at Pops' team and said, man, you're starting some dump players unless Burrow and Higgins go off. You're
Gonna lose.
gonna lose, and they combined for not that much. Cook doing his thing, but Kamara, 3 touchdowns. Big scoring week. Hopkins looks great. Little side note, Gabe had the opportunity to trade Kamara and Hopkins for Cup. I told him don't do it, and then I went in and swooped Cup. But Gabe now no longer any buyer's remorse for not doing that trade.
Yeah.
These guys are awesome. That's what I told him. They're the number ones. They'll prove it, and they did. Look at DJ Moore sliding in there. We were sitting watching the game laughing. Oh, if DJ Moore scores a long touchdown here, and then right in the basket. Nice job, Gabe.
Which was awesome, yeah. And I officially doubled Pops' score. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, doubled his score, and yeah, I don't know. Sucks for Pops. His team is looking bleak. I play him this week. We'll get into that. McCaffrey doing the passing, rushing, receiving trio here. First time since Ladini and Tomlinson in 05.
Pretty awesome.
This is what you expect from McCaff, and now he's on the Niners, and it's going to happen. So congrats to Trav. Gramps' team sucks.
Yeah.
Gramps, you need to trade. You need to do something. You've been putting up like 70s and 80s weeks and weeks and weeks in a row.
And you officially have the lowest points scored, and you're dead last in the league right now, so...
Yeah, so Gramps, you need to do something. I don't know what, but you need to make it happen. And Trav pulls off 3 wins in a row. Kind of on the rise here for Trav. His
Totally.
3 running backs are looking good. Yeah.
Tide has changed for him.
Joe, you can see here Etienne coming through in a big way for him. Etienne looking like a solid RB1.
Yes.
That and Waddle and Tyreek are going ham.
Yes, they are.
Hurts your team a lot, Joe, that Chase and
is
Debo
out.
are going to be out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect Algier to score a touchdown every week. So overall, I'm a little pessimistic on the next couple weeks for your team while you're missing your 2 best receivers or whatever. For now, you're in a good place. 5-3, a great win.
Yeah, and we've said it for weeks now, much to Tate's chagrin, but Jason, your team looks terrible, and I have no faith in it.
Yeah, although nowhere near as terrible as Gramps is at this point.
No, but
No.
they scored within 4 points of each other.
Indeed and indubitably.
Yeah.
Moving on, Gabe put together something awesome here. Let's start this slideshow up and get it rolling. Take it over.
Yeah, so I wanted to look at the rest of season strength of schedule, because we're far enough in to know what teams are good. So I'll just explain what this visually is. So each team I ranked color-wise based on their rankings. So Annie at the top of the league is the hardest matchup, and the 2 and 6 teams are the easiest. So color-coded, the easiest are dark green, Annie's dark red. And then it kind of goes from there. There's like red, orange for that next tier of Sam and Joe, and yellow for the 4 and 4s. And Pops, the only not bottom but not evenly recorded, is a light green.
Yep, you can see they're organized here. The total on the right shows the total record for the remaining teams combined.
Yep.
And then they are ranked on the left here by team, by hardest strength of schedule remaining to easiest at the bottom.
Yes. So quickly, I have the hardest remaining strength of schedule, and AJ has the easiest, and that's how that graph would go.
Yeah, I think one of the first most interesting things we saw from this strength of schedule coming out was that overall, it slightly trends towards the teams with the best records currently have harder strength of schedules than the teams with the worst records.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes sense because we only play everyone once this year. And so,
Well, the reason why it makes sense is because a lot of the teams that have low wins haven't played each other yet, which is where some of those wins are missing from their records, you know?
precisely, and some of the better teams haven't played other better teams yet. So they've been picking up wins off the worst teams and have yet to face their kind of like bam, bam, bam hard weeks. That being said, notable exception down here, Annie.
Yeah.
With a relatively light strength of schedule remaining. And she's at 7-1. So Annie in a prime position here to run the gamut and grab that belt on her way to her first potential trophy.
Yeah, I mean, even if Annie loses the 2 matches against Joe and Sam, her only like hard matchups right now,
Yep.
that's only a 3-loss season. This also doesn't include week 14, our free-for-all week,
Free for all.
because you can't really rank that difficulty.
No.
But yeah, Annie looks to have a walk into the number 1 seed if she can hold her own
Yep.
against teams she should be.
I think notable here, Gabe, your strength of schedule is pretty tough. Like noticeably harder than AJ's, for example.
Yes.
Like this 9-10 record win swing is significant. And I think it will affect your guys' seasons moving forward. Sam's no slouch, Kayla's no slouch, Tate is no slouch, I'm no slouch. We think Jason's record doesn't quite represent his team, but record-wise, 4-4, he's not.
Yeah.
He's won half his matchups.
Yeah.
Tough, and you're sitting at 4-4. It's tough sledding thinking about making the playoffs.
It's the gauntlet. I'm currently the only team who has a remaining schedule that doesn't face a losing team right now.
Yep. Moving on, Sam. Sam also sitting at that kind of edging your way into the playoffs from the bottom spot. He's sitting at 4th in the league right now, but a loss could hurt him a lot. A win could really help. He's in that pivotal kind of let's slam some wins in there. And he has to play Gabe, who just scored the highest last week. Me, scored the 2nd highest last week. And he has to face Annie at the end of it. So tough sledding for Sam. Tough sledding for me. My only remaining, quote, easy matchup is Pops coming up. And then it's Sam, Kayla, Gabe, Travis. Tate. That's going to be a tough sled of games there to end.
But yeah, I just thought this would look nice if anyone was interested on what the rest of their season looks like. It's kind of easy to visualize sort of what you have left to play, and maybe that influences how you make roster moves.
That, and I think we can use this to segue into next week's matchups by looking at week 9's strength of schedule here. Go from the top, Gabe, a hard matchup against Sam.
Yeah.
Sam, a not easy matchup against Gabe. I have a easier matchup against Pops. Tate and AJ.
Pops.
Oh, sorry, Tate and Pops with 2 of the hardest matchups, playing Kayla and me. Gramps and Kayla both with hard matchups. Jason with an easier matchup against his son, firstborn son. And then this is by far the hardest matchup of the week, Travis, and we'll get into this, decimated by against Annie.
Yes.
If I were a betting man, which I am, I would throw down money for Annie to win. And then these bottom 3 teams, who cares about Aiden and Jason?
Yeah. Luke and AJ play each other.
Yep.
That'll be fun to see who rises out of the basement.
That it will. Let's jump into it. Let's go over to Fantasy Cast and look at a little more detail this week's matchups.
Yeah. Eli likes to do this silly thing where he benches all of his non-Thursday night players. So it's hard to look at it right now, but
yeah, well, when I had my guys in, the projection looked at about 111. That's me playing Sam Ellinger at quarterback. Pop's missing a kicker, so he'll likely go up a few points, but I'll have the edge, and I'm going to likely crush Pops this week.
Pops, I know in hindsight it was bad advice for us to tell you to bench Madison, and I see you have him back in, but don't do that.
Don't do that. That's like me playing Swift and Williams, which is a much better decision based on Williams being the number 9 back in fantasy this year. Still, I would never do it, and that's Jamal Williams, who's been crushing. Don't play Madison. Or do, I don't care. I'm going to beat you either way, Pops. You can go ahead and play Burkhead all you want. Do your thing, I'm going to win.
Play Jeff Wilson on them.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Kayla, Tate, I'm pulling this for Kayla because her team's pretty solid, and Tate, he's looking worse and worse.
Sure. Although, if you're going to play Kayla, it's nice to play her when one of her best players is gone. Chubb's on the bench. So I'm going to say Kayla's got the edge, but this is actually quite a close matchup. I really like Devontae Adams to get back rolling again against the Jags. And I think Miles Sanders has a good day against Houston. So
sure. But Tate does have 2 Eagles. I don't like that. 2 Eagles, 2 Raiders.
Yeah, too much riding on the Eagly raid.
Yep.
Moving on.
To be honest, I feel like Luke's team is not going to pick up another win this season, and it's going to be AJ this week.
Yeah.
Just imagine this lineup without Terry. So who's going to play for Terry and who's going to fill in for Brandon Ayuk's bye? He's got Hunter Renfrow, who's put up like 5 points this year.
Yep.
And he's got questionable Jarvis Landry.
Or
Or you can flex in a tight end.
yeah.
Or you can pick up whatever's clinging around the waiver wire.
Whereas on AJ's side, he's got Kyler, good matchup against Seattle. Derrick Henry, crushing.
Matchup proof.
Avery Williams has been putting up points.
Purely on kickoff returns, but yeah.
Mike Evans and Thielen are fine receivers. Higbee's been okay. And then if you don't want to play Damian Harris, you can just slide in a little Nyheim Hines and see what happens.
Yeah, doesn't look like a terrible lineup. So
No, AJ, you're going to win this week. And congrats, dude. You're climbing up the ranks, dude.
yeah, from 0-5 to potentially 3-6 is not bad.
It's huge. It's big time. You are not out of the playoff race if you get this win. Moving on,
Yes.
we got a little Load versus the Rove.
Probably biased, but I think this is going to be the juiciest matchup this week. Sam always seems to be involved in some juicy games, and I think it's going to be high scoring. My lineup is definitely not what it's going to look like right now because I have 5 new players.
Well, let's say
coming
what
in,
your lineup's going to be: Carr, Gibson, Taylor,
probably.
Hopkins, Duvernay, Gesicki,
Yep.
Kamara, Pats D, McPherson.
I'm not set on Gibson or DJ Moore yet,
Sure.
but that will be the lineup that you just described. Pretty
Sure.
much.
And then Sam does not have this week Pollard. He does not have Edmonds. He does not have Gordon. He does not have CD. He does not have Wandale Robinson.
He does not have his starting
Broncos
tight end.
D or his tight end.
So he needs to pick up a tight end and he needs to pick up a defense.
yeah, I see this as being super close. And just based on Gabe's crushing performance last week, Gabe's team has a lot of momentum. I'm going to give the edge to Gabe, but I think this is the best matchup. I think Sam's going to need a vintage Kenneth Walker game, which I'd love to see. And he's going to need Jefferson to do his thing to keep up with Kamara and Hopkins and Taylor. So good luck to both of you. I really hope, Gabe, you win it.
Thanks,
Because Sam is creeping it right behind me at 5-3, and I would like to be able to afford another loss and stay in the top 3. Moving on, this is
Unfortunately for Travis, I think it's almost pre-decided what's going to happen in this game.
yeah, and maybe this was good planning on his end or not,
Well,
but
McCaffrey
McCaff-
was traded, so he couldn't have planned that.
McCaff, Barkley, Elliott on bye. His 3 best players. That's all we need to say. Your team is not strong enough to overcome McCaff and Barkley being on bye against number 1 team in the league, Annie, who gets Mahomes back from bye. Team looking really
Andy's
strong.
full strength lineup this year, and Travis is missing his 3 best players, so
Yeah, still
it's rough.
Still, if I were Annie, I'd find a way to move on from Tyler Lockett, either via trade, like a couple of trade with Clyde. I offered Annie a trade for Lockett. I understand why she didn't take it. I offered Pacheco and Sutton, but something to move on from Lockett. I know it's a bad
Horrible
trade.
trade.
I know, but I wouldn't. I don't
Oh.
want to.
Trade sucks.
The trade sucks, but my point is, people want Lockett, and you should probably find a way to get some value out of him.
Sure, I get what you're saying.
And move on from some value on your bench. Consolidate strength. That being said, you have the highest projection. You're the number 1 team in the league.
We aren't. So
We aren't. You're gonna win. Next matchup is actually interesting because of Joe's injury decimation. It's got Chase out, Debo
Debo's
out,
yeah.
and Patterson is still out. Pretty much all Gramps has is Herbert, Mixon, and maybe Keenan. I'm still giving the edge to Joe here in a strong edge. Boyd is undervalued while Chase is out. Robert Woods could do his thing any given week. You never know what's going to happen with Woods.
Depends on if Malik Willis is playing or not, I think.
It's going to be Tannehill, I think. Which helps Woods. And Etienne is going to run circles around the Raiders, and this is a great matchup for Rodgers. So
Bounce back week for Rodgers.
yeah, and Chicago sucks. So great matchups for Joe Badias, and he's going to pull out the win over last place Gramps. Gramps has been projected at like 106 every week and fails to meet it because players like Zay Jones and Everett and Dylan don't hit their 9-point projections. So that's not happening. Yeah. And then finally, it's a little father-son Diggler versus Big Raheem.
Yeah, and I don't know what Aiden's going to do with his new players, so it's hard to say. But I think he's got a stronger roster.
Yeah, well, let's say Aiden slides in McLaurin for Paris Campbell, which he should.
Yep.
Um,
He flexes Brian Robinson for Dawson Knox.
flexes Brian Robinson, and then he pulls whatever defense, doesn't really matter. Also, no, he has 2 great defenses.
He does.
You should probably trade one of those and get some value out of the maiden.
And then just another fill-in kicker, which is not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Jason's got Deontay on bye. He's starting 2 tight ends. He's probably gonna play.
Yeah.
I don't know what Jason's gonna do there.
Shahid looks like his best option.
Yep, we've been saying week after week that Jason should do something because his roster looks bad, and he has yet to do something.
To be fair, he tried to. It would have helped. And
But then he backed out of it after we laughed at it.
did he back out of it, or did Joe? I mean, it was a mutual decision, apparently.
They agreed to rescind the trade, and Jason, you should have stuck with your gut, man. You knew what you were doing.
Apparently, yeah, we were so wrong. Everyone was so wrong about that, except for you, Jason. So,
Well, he was wrong because he took it back.
sorry.
Yeah, it sucks to suck when you suck, but you suck, dude.
All right, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's gonna be it from us from the Gridiron here. Anything else to add?
Good luck on waivers, and yeah,
Good luck on waivers and go Hawks. Hawks have been freaking awesome. Go Gino. Gino for MVP.
yeah, and don't forget to share the load.
The load. The load, the load, the load. This has been the Gridiron! The Gridiron! This has been the Gridiron! The Gridiron! AJ! The Gridiron! The Gridiron! Luke! Gramps! Sam! The Gridiron! Aiden! Gabe! The Gridiron! The Gridiron! The Gridiron! Travis! Aaron! Jason! The Gridiron Podcast! Gabriel Grady and Elijah Grady. Jason, Joe, Tate. New episodes streaming weekly. Eli, Annie, Kayla. Make sure to like and subscribe. The Gridiron.